I got to say, if you're a college football fan and you're not excited right now, check your pulse. Number one, just a few weeks away from college football. That's as a college football fan, that's that's the goal, to get to the regular season. Excuse me, I just ate a snack, so I might have to burp every once in a while for a little bit. Anyways, so on top of that, we have a lot of changes going on right now. A lot of changes with conference realignment. So once again, if you're a college football fan and you're not excited right now, get yourself checked, because there's some exciting times. Yes, change is scary sometimes. It is. We get used to the norm, and then change happens and we have to adjust, and it's uncomfortable. But change is always necessary, always, in everything in life. So this is just it's just one of those changes that it is uncomfortable at first, but we'll have to get through. By the way, I have my fan on, guys. My AC unit my bedroom was built later than the rest of my house, so it has a separate air conditioning unit, and it doesn't work right now, so I have to use a fan. So I tried to point it away from the mic, but if it's interfering with my talking, y'all let me know in the chat, please. I have no problem trying to adjust it or turning it down, but it gets hot in here because the AC for the bedroom doesn't work. AC for the rest of the house works fine, but just not in here. So anyways, getting sidetracked. First off, welcome to Golden Blue Dude with your host, Golden Blue Dude, live show. And I put a link in the comments to join StreamYard. We don't do call-ins anymore because I figured out StreamYard and how to add people that way. If you don't want to be on camera, that's fine. All you have to do is click the link. You'll be in the background. Nobody else will be able to see you but me. Show your face, and then you can turn off your camera before I put you on. So you don't have to show your face. It's the same thing as calling in. It really is. It's just you're using StreamYard instead of your phone. So, yeah, I'm excited. And per usual, at the beginning of the video, I like to remind people, if you haven't hit the like button, please do so. It's not to give good old Golden Blue Dude a pat on the back. What it does is it helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm, which gets this video suggested more, so more people see it, more people click on it, and boom, you grow your audience and you grow your video. I am baffled. Seriously, I watch a lot of live shows, and I am baffled at how little emphasis people put on hitting the like. It's not telling me good job. That's not what the like is for. It's an algorithm tool. So please hit the like. Let's grow this thing. If you want to leave a comment and you want me to respond, whether it's just you're trolling me, you're making fun of me, or you have an actual question that you want me to answer on the air, Super Chat's the way to go. It's that little $sign down on your bottom right. Hit that. Put a comment in that, and whatever you put in your comment, I will put it on the screen. As long as it's, appropriate for YouTube, I will put it on the screen. I will read it, and we will address it live on the air. So if you have anything you want to address, you want to ask me a question, you want to call me names, make fun of me, or just make a statement about your team. Maybe you have a prediction for your team, and you want me to read it out to everybody else. Super Chat's the way to go. So a lot of conference realignment has been going on, right? A lot. And the next big domino is Notre Dame. That's why I made a video about Notre Dame yesterday, or was it today? I get my days mixed up. I don't even know sometimes. That is the next domino. But there's some other interesting things going on besides Notre Dame. And so the second video that I made today was about the SEC's interest in UCF. Yeah, you didn't hear me wrong on that one. The SEC is interested in UCF. And it's because of Disney. And why I didn't think of this before, I have no idea. It makes too much sense. Like, it's almost like once you realize it, you're like, duh, why wouldn't they? All right. So for people that don't know the outline of the college football world, Disney owns ESPN, right? ESPN has the TV rights to the SEC. Disney is in Orlando. UCF is in Orlando. That's the connection there. That's why the SEC is interested in UCF. Not because UCF is some powerhouse and they're worth more money than anybody else or any other brand out there. It's because it's right there beside Disney. I mean, Disney could, it wouldn't surprise me if Disney hasn't tried to help UCF grow as a university. That wouldn't surprise me. Now, I have no proof of that, so I'm not going to accuse them of that or anything like that. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. So yeah, it's directly related to Disney. I mean, ESPN literally has to do what Disney says because they're owned by ESPN, and ESPN has the TV rights to the SEC. So it's a ladder effect. You have, and it's because they're in the same city. I mean, if UCF was like where Miami is, this is why I made the comparison with Miami. In the city of Miami, then we wouldn't even be talking about this. It's because they're in the city of Orlando, and Orlando is the home of Disney. Now, it also helps that UCF is one of the strongest brands in the Group of Five conferences. That's why the Big 12 sent them an invite. That's why that's why UCF is going to the Big 12, right? They have grown their brand to where they're the cream of the crop in the Group of Five conferences, right up there with Cincinnati, BYU, and Houston. I would even put Boise State up there. Maybe Memphis. I'm not sure about them. I think Memphis has a great TV market. And then there's all the other stuff, like UCF has the largest on-campus student body. So literally the biggest university, if you're going by how many students attend, it is number one. The TV market, I mean, Orlando, Disney, there you go. I mean, the visitors that come in and out of Disney in Orlando every year is ridiculous. I went last year in November. And if you've never been to Disney, it's not like just one big park. It's actually divided into like 5 different parks. And each park is named its own thing. Let's see, what was my favorite one? Probably Universal Studios, probably my favorite. It has the best rides. I'm a rides guy. I like roller coasters and nothing spinning though. Can't do that. That makes me sick. But roller coasters, yes. I love roller coasters. So it was my favorite as far as parks go. But I liked the Animal Kingdom one. That was pretty good. It had the Mount Everest roller coaster. That was really good. I didn't know. See, I like surprises as well. Something about a ride. Man, I got a hair in my mouth. There we go. We got it. I have cats and hair floats in the air sometimes. It landed right on my tongue. I hate that. But anyways, so I like surprises when it comes to rides, right? So there's this one ride at Animal Kingdom called Expedition Everest, right? And it looks like a good roller coaster, high heel, so you get plenty of airtime. But the thing that I didn't know is it goes backwards. I didn't know that because it's a switch track. Most roller coasters that go backwards, they go up, lose momentum, and come back down, just like a boomerang. Up, back, like that. But with Expedition Everest, it is a switch track. So you go up on one track, and then when they pull you up to go backwards, they actually switch the track. So you go backwards a different way. So you on top of going backwards, you're going backwards on a different track. So you don't know which way you're going to turn. At least going forward, all right, we turned there. That was a hill. All right, I know what to expect. Different track. So I love that. How did I get sidetracked? Man, that's how my brain works. I got sidetracked. Anyways, all right, back to college football. Disney. A lot of visitors every year. I went last year. That's how we got off on that. So there's a good TV market for UCF. I'm not sure about the fan base. I'd have to look into the numbers. David Z, thank you for the $5 donation. He says, your videos leave me the impression you'd like West Virginia out of the Big 12. I get your travel issue, but with expansion, throw travel out. Correct? Build the Big 12 with West Virginia. I actually agree with that. See, worst case scenario for West Virginia is if we did stay in the Big 12, they only grab teams out of the Pac-12. That is horrible. Not good. Horrible travel. Our travel is already terrible. That would make it worse. But as long as the Big 12 balanced it out and tried to get teams out east, I don't know, maybe more really strong brands out of the group of five, like a Memphis, something like that. SMU could be decent. I don't know. Just anything on the east side to help with our travel. And then you could get the Big 12 so big that you could do pods and maybe only one road trip, way out west. That's brutal. And then the rest is right there. I'd be okay with that. I don't like the thought of the Big 12 expanding and going after Pac-12 teams, and that's it. That would be horrible. Our road trip's already horrible. That would make it 10 times worse. So I actually agree with this comment as long as that last part of your comment happens. Build the Big 12 with West Virginia. As long as that last part happens, yes, I would agree with you. And by build, not just the Pac-12 teams, but also, teams out east, because it's not just West Virginia. I mean, that hurts Cincinnati. That hurts UCF right now. They're going to be in the Big 12 for a little while, at least for a little while, and then Houston. So you're hurting. Well, maybe not Houston. They got the Texas teams, but definitely Cincinnati, West Virginia, UCF. But whenever I first heard about this thing about the SEC interested in UCF, I actually had the same reaction as you guys. I was like, I think it was actually John Kurtz that I heard this from last night first. Or maybe it was somebody else that made me go watch him. And he was talking about it. I was like, UCF over West Virginia, UCF over Cincinnati. That doesn't make any sense. So my reaction whenever I first heard about it was like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. Like, this is definitely grasping at straws. And then I heard other people starting to talk about it. And then I looked into it. I was like, this actually does make sense. I didn't think about all this other stuff. Thank you, Sergeant Pickles 13, for the $5 donation. Says, respectfully, the UCF to SEC just because of Disney is such a flimsy connection. Not just because, but like the biggest reason. But I'm following. They are still the fourth brand in Florida, even considering the TV market. And I agree with that. And I would agree with the fact that if the only reason was because of Disney, maybe it would be a flimsy connection. But I don't know. Even if that was the only reason, that's still not that flimsy. But I understand what you're saying, though. But there's a lot of positives to UCF. I mean, they're in the state of Florida. They're one of the fastest growing brands in the nation. They just built a football stadium. It holds 40,000, but they put footers in to where it could be expanded to 70,000. 70,000 would be SEC-type stadium. They have the biggest on-campus student body in the nation. They've only been playing in FBS since 1996. That's around 25 years. And they've gone from FCS. They're the only team ever in history to play in all four divisions in college football. They started on the lowest. Then they got bumped up to AAA, then FCS, and then Division 1A, FBS. So they are the only team to do that, and it happened really fast. First year they even ever played football was 1979. Even that's not that long ago. unlike, a USC, a Texas, they've been playing, 100 years. They've only been playing like 40, 50 years. So, yeah. And like I was saying earlier, whenever I first saw this UCF to the SEC, I thought this is just straight up, like, I had the same reaction that you guys are having. I thought it was stupidity. I thought it was ridiculous. It didn't make any sense. I'm like, UCF's football brand is nowhere. Like, I can name a bunch of, like, they should take Oklahoma State above UCF, Miami, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, Baylor, maybe even a Kansas State, or Texas Tech, definitely, a Cincinnati. And I can't. You can ask Joey. Joey, y'all have a positive thought for Joey. By the way, he's going to the doctor. Nothing wrong. Just I think just a checkup, but you never know. So keep a positive thought for Joey. But me and Joey were talking about this last night, and we're like, man, this sounds silly. This sounds stupid. So I had the same. I pretty much had the same reaction as everybody else whenever I heard it first. But it was after that I looked into it and realized all the connections and realized what everything pointed to. I was like, man, that actually does make sense. And I'm not the only one talking about this either. I wasn't the first to talk about this. In fact, John Kurtz, I watched his live show last night. It was around 9, 10 o'clock or something. That's what he was talking about. So it's not just me talking about it. This is really blowing up. And to be honest with you, it came out of nowhere for me. It's not like I've been hearing about this for a while. I literally just started hearing about this yesterday, and I just started hearing it from everybody. So that's what made me look into it. And man, I don't know. The connection makes sense. It's just the only thing that I believe that we can all agree on is the football brand itself. Florida's brand is stronger. They're already in SEC though. Florida State's brand is stronger. They're next in line. Miami's brand is stronger. So UCF would be number 4. So really it would just be a fight between UCF and Miami. And that's why I titled the video the title that I titled it today, because it's basically picking UCF and Miami. UCF over Miami. That's what this comes down to. What's going on, Tony?
This pisses me off that the SEC is just pissed off that they don't want Miami. That's a stupid and immature reason that you don't want Miami in the conference. GBD, just because you're afraid of the losing recruiting power in that area.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a very immature reason, honestly. And
well, they want to keep superiority. Anything that could give the Big Ten another advantage or something like that, they want to avoid. You know what I'm saying? So they think that if they bring in Miami, then that's going to hurt the other teams as far as recruiting, and that could give the Big Ten a leg up. But I'm with you on that one. I actually agree with you. Prophet, thank you for the $2 donation.
Wait a minute.
Hold on. Prophet with the $2 donation. He says, video copier, clickbaiter, and clown, GBD. See, I told you, if you super chatted, even if you're trolling me, I will put it up there. And you know what? I'll actually leave it up there. I have no problem with that. We have, hold on, we have another person wanting to join. Welcome to Golden Blue Dude. How are you today? Can you hear us?
Hello?
Shooter. I might put, well, you know what? I think I can hear him. I don't know if he can hear us, though. Should I leave him on or put him in the background?
Leave him on. Maybe it's...
All right, we'll leave him on.
Yeah.
But yeah, Prophet's
been
on. Hold on. I want to address this real quick. Prophet's been on this, kick where he's calling, which the clickbaiter thing, false news, fake news, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm used to that. But the video copier, that's a straight up lie. And anybody that's been watching Golden Blue Dude and anybody else knows, I've been called an Uncle Lou wannabe, whatever you want to call it. But a video copier, that's nonsense, and you know it. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, but what pisses me off is that they want to bring Texas in, yet they don't say the same exact crap that they didn't want Texas in because of the recruiting aspect. Make that make sense to me. Seriously, that pisses me off that they don't use the same excuse for Texas with Miami.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a really good point. Oklahoma, I can understand because you're picking up an extra state. And from what I understand, they had been talking to Texas and Oklahoma for 6 to 8 months, maybe even longer, before they made the announcement. And they didn't tell Texas A&M up until the last second, voting time or whatever, because they didn't want them to throw a fit. So they knew that Texas A&M and probably Arkansas, maybe even Missouri, would have a problem with Texas coming in. And it's because Texas politicking, ran the Big 12, but also recruiting. For Miami, see, I understand that Miami is a hotbed of recruiting, and it's a condensed small area. I mean, you can shrink it down to one county, Dade County, probably the hottest county in the entire nation. But I still don't see that as a legitimate reason to keep them out. I mean, Miami's a really good brand. I thought
what it is.
Want the best brands. They want the best brands. Miami's a good brand. Bring them in.
Yeah, no, it's not just Miami-Dade. You know what it is? They don't want to lose power in Broward or West Palm Beach or Palm Beach County. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I was just saying that the main focus is Dade, but yes. The others as well.
Well, can you explain? I understand that, but can you explain that's hypocrisy at the highest level? That you're complaining that Miami's going to take away your recruiting base, but you bring in Texas, who has almost the same size recruiting base from Houston to Dallas to San Antonio.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna bring on Shooter and see if he can hear us now. Can you hear us this time?
Yes, sir.
All right, gotcha. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What's on your mind, buddy? I see you're a Baylor fan.
That is true.
That.
Yes.
Big 12 member.
Golden blue meet golden green.
I hear you. I'd like to come down to McLean Stadium. I've heard that it's a beautiful stadium. It's one of the newest stadiums there is right now. I'm going to 4 home games for West Virginia, one of them being the Baylor game. I'm going to be there. So if you make the road trip, I'll be there. But the goal of this channel eventually is to make enough money to where I can travel the country and go to as many college football venues, because I want to open up my mind and experience, as much college football tradition as possible. All right, before we get to you, Shooter, let me read these super chats real quick. Packer 910, thank you for the $2 donation, says North Carolina to the Big Ten is better than the SEC. I don't know. I mean, North Carolina is one of those teams that would fit either way. I get your argument, but it depends on the money. David Z, thank you for the $5 donation, says Kurtz is a Big 12 guy, which we need more of. Too many inflating the SEC narrative. Big 12 doesn't have the money, but easily the third conference, Iowa State. So I'm guessing an Iowa State fan, which we welcome all, especially fellow Big 12.
Hey, Shooter, I have a question for you. Since you're a Baylor fan, would you rather be the only Texas team in a conference like the ACC, or would you want to go to the SEC with Texas and Texas A&M? In your honest opinion.
Yeah, great question. I would personally choose the SEC because of the rivalries that would be renewed with the Aggies, even Arkansas way back in the day. So that would be awesome. But the ACC being the only Texas team, it's got an appeal. People talked about the Big Ten in the same way. I think the Big Ten would be a weird fit for Baylor, but I could see the Big Ten wanting a reach into the state of Texas. Same thing with the ACC wanting a reach into the state of Texas. So, I'm fine with it. But I personally, if I could renew those rivalries with Arkansas.
You could create new rivalries with Miami, though.
I think the ACC would be a really fun place for Baylor. I think Baylor right now with the defense we've created with Matt Rule and with Dave Aranda, I think we could play just about anywhere and be competitive. And I think the ACC would be an interesting fit for that reason.
You actually made a good argument about another reason that it doesn't make sense why, and it was you and Tony both, why the SEC doesn't extend an invite to Miami. I mean, they have a great rivalry with Florida State already in the ACC. That would be a natural fit for them. And then I know Florida's been trying to avoid scheduling Miami. So if they don't want to schedule them every year, that's fine. Maybe you can do a 2 on and 2 off. But you're bringing in eyeballs. You're bringing in money. You're bringing in rivalries. That, like the SEC not bringing in Miami and definitely choosing UCF or Virginia over Miami blows my mind. Like I can't wrap my mind around it. It makes no sense to me.
Well, I look at that UCF rumor making sense because you're just talking about raw numbers. I mean, UCF is going to have a much bigger alumni base, already does, I imagine, than Miami. And so 10 years down the road, you got to look at those numbers and say, okay, they're going to draw big TV numbers. Being in the SEC and having that many alumni, being on the corridor, it makes sense. But I think I personally agree with you. I kind of like the history of Miami. I like the South Florida as a great recruiting ground too.
Yeah.
So, I think if Miami gets passed over by the SEC and the ACC falls apart, I think the Big 12 would go after Miami hard, and they would love it. Of course, they would lose UCF. That would be the draw, the trade-off. But yeah.
And my question about that would be, if this does happen, does UCF skip the Big 12 step? Like, I don't know if they were in. I don't know if they knew that the SEC was even interested in them at the time that they accepted the Big 12's invite.
No, they weren't. I'm pretty sure, and I think they've already signed the contract, so they're on the hook for the $80 million. So they're going to have to pull that money out. I will say that I think that's one advantage Baylor has is we have the ability to just swing a dead cat and pull out $100 million.
Yeah.
You know what hurts Miami too? Being a private institution as well.
Yep.
We don't. That's why we have a small alumni base. We're a private institution, and we're very strict on who we allow in. And if we have a big alumni base, it's more the international route. We don't have a lot of like in-state or in-country alumni. It's more around the world for us in Miami and stuff like that. That's how Stanford. I think that's how Stanford is. They're worldwide and stuff like that. You've noticed that with Stanford and Miami that we're worldwide instead of just being condensed in the United States. That's what hurts us. We're more international than being in the United States, in country.
Right. Sir Uga, last night, whenever I first heard about the SEC being interested in UCF, I had the same sentiments. I thought it was the dumbest thing that I've heard. I heard more channels start talking about it, and I looked into it myself. And honestly, I still think it's dumb. I think it's one of the dumbest things I've heard so far, but there is some teeth to it. There is. So I wish I could take the credit of coming up with this. I wish I could, but it wasn't me. I actually heard John Kurtz talking about it last night, and I thought it was the stupidest thing that I ever heard whenever he was talking about it. And I still do, but it does have teeth.
Shooter. Florida is not wanting Miami in the conference because remember that Sugar Bowl in the 90s with Steve Spurrier? They're still like bitter about that. We beat them off and on the field.
Yeah.
And grow up. I understand you're upset, but grow up. Grow up.
Well, Florida gave the same accusations as everybody else back in the day with Miami, a bunch of thugs. I mean, that was just That was Miami's reputation. That's not a way to be, petty over
be
something.
more
It's still a
mature
good
about it.
rivalry.
Be
I mean, that's
more
just how it
mature about
was.
it, though. But
Yeah, they were
be more
piling on.
mature about it, to be honest.
I mean, I want the convicts versus the Catholics back as well. Notre Dame, Miami. That it's not a historic rivalry. Really, if you look at it, it was condensed to maybe around 20 years between the 80s and the 90s. But man, when it was there, it was there. It was a good one. I loved it.
It would be, honestly, it would be cool to have two on-the-water stadiums if Baylor comes to Miami when Miami builds their stadium, because we're thinking building our stadium on a lake like you guys do in Baylor. Yeah. Is that on a lake or a river?
It's on the river. It's right across the river from the main campus. But I did see the plans for the new Miami Stadium, and that will be huge. That'll be a big, big deal that will absolutely revitalize Miami football. That's critical. That's got to happen.
I don't know why they haven't done it sooner, because I've made several videos on what I'm about to say, but the Orange Bowl back in the day, I know even back then, there for a while, they shared the Orange Bowl with Miami before they got, I think it was called Pro Player Stadium at first.
Yeah, Joe Robbie Stadium.
Joe Robbie, that's what it was. Before the Dolphins got Joe Robbie, the Dolphins and the Kings shared the Orange Bowl. But even when they shared the Orange Bowl had its own, characteristics. And that was real home field advantage. You compare the Orange Bowl to Hard Rock Stadium, and there's no comparison, none at all.
I'm going to explain to you guys. This is the reason why that whole area around the campus is a rich neighborhood. Those rich people don't want a college stadium around there because it's going to affect their property values and stuff like that. Because no one wants to move into a neighborhood with a college stadium right next door where there's going to be a lot of noise on Saturdays or Sundays and stuff like that.
Well, think about this. How much sense does this make? So they demolished the Orange Bowl and built the ballpark for the Marlins, and Miami fans don't care about baseball. If they're not really, really good, they don't care about baseball. It is what it is. I'm not talking trash. So they invested millions and millions of dollars into that stadium, and they're definitely not making money off of it, when what they could have done is, either one, renovate the Orange Bowl, or two, still demolish it and build another stadium. And they would make way more money off of Miami Hurricanes football than off of Miami Marlins baseball. I mean, that was a stupid decision.
I agree with you. It's a stupid decision, but let's not forget also Miami is an international city as well. Like we have a lot of other. We have to rely on other sports too.
But the Marlins shared a stadium with the Dolphins as well, and the Hurricanes. It was 3-1. So instead of splitting the Marlins off of Hard Rock Stadium, they should have split off the Canes and kept the Marlins in and see if they could have built up that brand more. I just think that they made a knee-jerk reaction off the Marlins, thinking, that they were going to make a bunch of money, and it wasn't well established that their Marlins was going to make the city of Miami money. Thank you, David Z, for the $5 donation. He says, I'm hearing a fellow conference member fan, Baylor, talk about how they want to join the SEC/ACC, etc. Stop adding to the narrative. Build the Big 12. That's not what he was saying. Tony gave him a choice. Tony asked him a question about would he prefer the ACC or the SEC. He didn't ask him, hey, would you rather stay in the Big 12 or, go to the SEC or the ACC? If the Big 12, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. If the Big 12 can build East, West, and East, not just West, but West and East on both sides of the conference, then, I hope West Virginia stays. I hope Baylor stays. I hope everybody stays. It falls on the shoulders of the Big 12 and the new commissioner to build it and to build it the right way.
Yeah. Being that you guys are Big 12 fans, are you guys happy they kicked out that former guy? Oh, the former Big 12 commissioner. What's his name?
Bob
Goldsby.
Bowlby.
Well, I don't think they necessarily kicked him out, but am I happy about it? Yes. Not because he was a terrible commissioner, but he reacted instead of being proactive. In these days, you have to be proactive. First go around, didn't see it coming, whatever you want to call it. Lost Colorado, Nebraska, Texas A&M, and Missouri. Reacted by getting West Virginia and TCU. Then this second go around, didn't see it coming again. Lost Oklahoma and Texas. Reacted by getting BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF. You cannot play the conference realignment game being reactive. It's going to turn into a group of 5 conference if you keep losing Power 5 members and keep adding group of 5 teams. You can't run a conference that way.
Let me defend Bob a little bit. He wasn't actually commissioner when
the first go around. Yeah.
The first go around, yeah. He came in, but he was part of the second. And I think he retired because he saw the writing on the wall and realized that he had actually, he had that cease and desist with ESPN, which was the right thing to do because ESPN was meddling. But I think he realized that he's not going to be in a good position to negotiate with ESPN going forward. But more than anything, I like this new guy. Yarmark is a pit bull, and he's got all the chops and all the experience that we need for media negotiations. And so I think he's going to be great. Responding to that super chat, I personally believe the future is building the Big 12. I think we'll take Utah +1. That'll put the panic on. Oregon and Washington will see the numbers and realize the Pac-12 isn't a future, unfortunately. All this talk about merging with the ACC is too unwieldy. A full merger with the Big 12, too unwieldy. And so they'll jump. And also, I don't know if you heard about this, but there's a push in the legislatures in Washington and Oregon to try and tether Oregon State and Washington State to and if they actually start moving on that legislation, Oregon and Washington are going to bolt so that they'll be grandfathered and they can't be tied. And the only place they can bolt to is the Big 12. And it makes sense. And they'll get more money. So I think that'll happen. I think we'll take 4 to 6 from the West. And I agree with you. We got to leave some space for the East.
Yeah.
Whether it's the ACC, whether it's Memphis, but there's got to be room to build a coast to coast that makes logical sense. And that will create maybe we won't be at the level of the SEC and the Big Ten. No, but we will separate ourselves from the Pac-12 leftovers and even from the ACC. ACC's got Clemson. They've got Notre Dame. So they got those, but having that coast-to-coast reach that's very competitive, that's going to be thrilling because you're not going to know year to year who's the top. Who is the top? We don't know. It could be West Virginia. It could be Baylor. It could be Oklahoma State. It could be Oregon. And that builds a lot more intrigue and a lot more eyeballs. And I think Fox is going to put up a ton of money if we can get 4 to 6 from the West, leave ourselves opportunities for the East, and you're going to have 3 big dog conferences.
How about adding Notre Dame to the Big 12?
Well, there's a rumor about that, and that's a funny rumor. The idea was the only way you could get Notre Dame is to give Notre Dame a double portion and say, Notre Dame, you'll get a double payout, which will put you over $100 million if you join the Big 12. But it's a pipe dream. I would
say ACC or Big Ten is their 2 choices.
Exactly.
And independence is not a choice. Moving forward, independence is not a choice because of money. They do not make enough money through NBC to maintain recruiting. And recruiting is going to turn into NIL. It already has. You're going to have to pay to get the best players. It is what it is. I don't like it, but, I was for the NIL because I wanted players to get paid. I did. But I didn't like what it turned into, and I knew that was the risk.
If they had guidelines, it would be easier.
Exactly. But as is, Notre Dame cannot stay independent. Right now, they make $18 million a year from NBC, right? Even if somehow, some way, NBC was able to double that for their home games, right? That's that's right around $35 million a year, $36 million a year, something like that. No, they're not going to be competitive with that type of payout. They're going to have to either join the Big Ten or the ACC. The only reason they join the ACC is if they renegotiate that TV deal, which it's come out that ESPN and the ACC want to renegotiate that. That's
say
the
that
thing
deal
that
falls
could cause problems for the Big 12. That's the one thing that could.
How could you pay $100 million to Wake Forest, to Boston College? You know, I mean, that's the part I don't see ESPN.
But at the same time, the Big Ten is going to be paying $100 million to like Maryland, Rutgers, Northwestern. You know, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. But the Big Ten has already set a precedent, and then the SEC paying Vanderbilt. I'm like, my gosh,
Vanderbilt.
Like they should kick out the low hanging fruit and bring in the big brands. I mean, they're just collecting a paycheck. That's all they're doing.
But here's the deal, though. ESPN right now is set up to make a good profit off the ACC. And for them to turn around and put in a huge loss just to get Notre Dame, when honestly, if they want Notre Dame that bad, they could go compete on the Notre Dame independent. They could pay Notre Dame $100 million, and they'd come out on top because they'd have the independent contract with Notre Dame. They'd have the ACC where they make a profit. But for them to throw $700-800 million on top of that current, because that's what it would have to be, $700-800 million more per year because of all the teams that are involved in the ACC, just to try and get Notre Dame. I think they go independently after Notre Dame on its own and make it where Notre Dame can stay independent, which is what they would prefer.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's not a bad idea at all. I see we have right around 130 people watching right now. So I wanted to take a minute and first of all, thank everybody for watching the live show, but it goes beyond that. This channel is overperforming. I don't know if people realize this, but this channel is overperforming, and it's because of people like you watching the videos in the live stream. I'm not even at 9,000 subscribers, and I'm getting 10,000 views on the regular here recently. I mean, a bad video is around 5,000 after 24 hours. So, the videos are overperforming, and it's because of people like you. So I wanted to take the time and thank everybody for watching, supporting, commenting, hitting the like button. That helps too, which, by the way, all you new people that weren't here whenever I talked about it, it really helps the video if you hit the like button. It's not a pat on the back or anything like that. It just helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm, gets the video suggested more, and that's how you grow the video. And we have 130 watching because people hit the like and they're commenting. So not kissing rear end, but I have to give credit where credit is due. You guys are a great audience.
Yeah, and what hurts Notre Dame, in my honest opinion. Their arrogance is hurting them in the long run. Like, because they want to be so special that they're independent. That's what hurt Miami before they joined. Remember when Miami was independent? Shooter, do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
That's what hurt Miami. They weren't in a conference. That's why even though they had a good record at the end of the season, sometimes they got overlooked for teams who were in conferences in the 80s and stuff like that when they were independent before they joined the Big East and stuff like that.
Penn State, I believe, was independent back then too,
and West Virginia.
Exactly. Yeah. Which actually didn't hurt West Virginia near as much, but
well, at one point, Penn State and West Virginia were actually trying to partner to start their own league. They were trying to get Pitt in. They were trying to get Maryland in. They were trying to get Louisville in. Like, they really tried to start their own conference. Of course, that didn't work out. But it was just funny that, Miami, West Virginia, Penn State, Notre Dame were independent at the same time. And that's right around when Penn State finally joined the Big Ten. And then West Virginia and Miami joined the Big East. But as a Baylor fan, you guys, y'all are in a pretty good position. I think Baylor, especially with the success that y'all have had in football and basketball over the past decade, your brand is at an all-time high right now. All-time high. As a Baylor fan, did you ever think you'd see anything that resembled what you're seeing now?
Not at all. I mean, I was on campus in the 90s and then the 2000s, and it was brutal. It was brutal. And I actually graduated before Bryles came on board, and then, he changed it all.
Yeah.
But no, and, Scott Drew, coach of the basketball team, has done just miracle work. And then now we've got, we had Bryles, we had the scandal, then we had Rule, and now we have Aranda. Honestly, you really want to know the secret sauce. It's a guy named Mac Rhodes, the athletic director at Baylor. He is an absolute genius. He's brilliant. He's built an athletic department, and he's done too many good quality coaching hires to be a mistake. So if you want to build a program, go get a good athletic director, and then the rest will fall into place. Hey, I got to run real quick, Golden Blue, but I wanted to say real fast, I really enjoyed your videos because it's really given me a better understanding and appreciation of West Virginia. And I used to think, God, why in the world are these guys in the Big 12? They're way out there in the middle of nowhere on an island. But what you guys have done with Huggins in basketball, what you guys have done with Holgerson, and now you're building this with Brown, but the competitiveness and the difference, like when Huggins would go full court press,
yes,
Baylor had to go through that, and it was just a pain in the butt because nobody does it. But honestly, that is what made Baylor a national champion, is that we had to play Oklahoma State, we had to play, Cade Cunningham, we had to play all these guys, and then we had to go play Huggins, we had to go play something different. And it let us go through the gauntlet of March Madness in a way that nobody else was prepared for, because we'd seen it all. We'd seen every offense and defense in basketball. But anyway, I just want to say,
hey, Scooter, before you go, you're since you're a Baylor fan, as a Baylor basketball fan, between these two coaches, who did you hate playing a lot more, Rick Barnes or Lon Kruger?
Oh.
Man, I'd hate to live on the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, the spoilers in the Big 12 are the big problem. The big thing about it is you couldn't turn your back on anybody. Everybody was, Kansas, Kansas, Kansas. And then you go in and get wiped out by Kansas State when nobody's looking. Or West Virginia when nobody's looking. And so, I would just say I don't want to live on the difference. There was a lot of, I wouldn't say hate, but just regretful respect after the fact, where you just had to go, dadgummit.
Yeah. And Shooter, people that don't, before you get out of here, people that don't understand the bottom lows that Baylor went through, they need to go Google whenever Baylor finally took off the tarp off the end zone.
Yeah. Oh, the Floyd Casey tarp. That was brutal. Yeah.
Jesus.
Or just don't even Google it. That's okay. We can forget about that.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say is my real hope and desire, I used to think, let West Virginia go to the ACC. But now I look at it and say, dude, stay in the Big 12 and let's go get Pitt. Let's go get Louisville. Let's go get Virginia Tech and bring them.
That would be great with that. Yeah.
And that would be a lot of fun to see. And then get Miami and UCF, and we'd have such a fun program. I would say Georgia Tech too, just for the history of it and the recruiting grounds.
Yeah.
But definitely Pitt, Virginia Tech, and Louisville. And then you already got Cincy in there, and you got West Virginia. I think that makes a really fun, exciting East Coast to West Coast. We got every time zone in there.
Exactly.
That's a fun deal. So
I like it.
Thanks for the channel, man. I appreciate you letting me join in, and you guys have a good time. I got a bolt out of here. Kids are screaming at me, so we got to run.
No problem. Thanks, brother.
Have a good day.
Man, he was actually a really good guest. It's great. It's great to get different fan bases on, as far as getting on here and talking about what they think, what their perspective is. That's one thing. Whenever you're a college football content creator, that's one thing. When you jump into it, you don't quite realize what you're jumping into, because you're used to your own fan base, you're used to your blinders, your own traditions, and then it opens up this whole new world of different traditions, different perspectives, different views, and it's awesome, to be honest with you. I've learned a lot from you guys.
Yeah, for me as a Hurricanes fan, I would be okay with moving to the Big 12 if we can renegotiate this deal with the ESPN, because honestly, I don't care about the right. I was never attached to the Virginia Tech rivalry and stuff like that. For me, I was more attached to Florida State and West Virginia. For some reason, I hated that we lost West Virginia as a rival when we left the Big East.
You know, it was funny that Shooter just mentioned Notre Dame trying to stay independent. Dennis Dodd is reporting Notre Dame is targeting $75 million annual media rights payout in quest to remain independent. And the caveat to that is the Big 12 would be used to enhance the NBC contract. What?
Holy, what the hell?
What we just talked about laughing and stuff. I don't even know what to say about that.
So you think Miami might follow? Like,
hold on, he sent me a link. Let me make sure there's not more to it. Let's see here. All right. Notre Dame would remain independent if it can earn at least $75 million annually in media rights revenue from current broadcast partner NBC. Sources told CBS Sports. The Fighting Irish's deal with the network is set to expire in 2025. Now, for NBC to feel comfortable raising Notre Dame's valuation to such a level, it is seeking a shoulder programming from a Power 5 conference to enhance its college football coverage. When that had previously been speculated, the Big Ten was the conference mentioned most often as the target. However, the Big 12 has emerged as a strong option to fill NBC's shoulder programming needs.
why in that article you think they didn't talk about the ACC in that conference?
I don't know. The only thing that I can figure out is ESPN renegotiating with the ACC can help them. And maybe Notre Dame isn't held to the grant of rights because they're not a full member of the ACC in football. So they could actually remain members in other sports. They're still independent in football. They wouldn't be held to the grant of rights.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy. Like, so the Big 12 might be the favorite to land Notre Dame in football.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't.
You're speechless. I never seen you this silent.
I didn't see that coming. Like, honestly, didn't. Stay. If that happens, stay, West Virginia. Stay. Do not move.
What happens to Miami then?
If that happens, the Big 12 will emerge as the third dominant conference.
This is what happens. If Clemson, Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida State leave, and Notre Dame ends up partnering with the Big 12, what the hell happens to Miami now? Seriously.
Big 12.
You think we go to the Big 12?
Yep.
And UCF goes to the SEC?
Yep. I think the SEC and Florida and Disney is that petty.
Jesus Christ.
You could literally replace UCF in the Big 12. Now, I know the travel's not ideal, but if it does go in that direction, we would be talking about pods, and Miami would be playing regularly. You'd be playing West Virginia, Cincinnati, probably a Houston, and then whoever else we pick out.
Baylor.
Maybe a Memphis, maybe some teams out of the ACC. And then maybe Miami would probably have one brutal road trip a year. That's it. So it's not as bad as what it seems.
So you think we might end, like, if they get the other brands from the Pac-12, like Oregon, Washington, and Stanford, and they let UCF go to the SEC, like the rumors are, that Miami can replace that. And like Shooter said, you guys would rather have Miami than UCF. I understand the alumni base is bigger, but you have a bigger TV market in Miami than Orlando.
Well, plus we don't have to worry about recruiting like that. Bringing in Miami doesn't hurt really any type of recruiting for the Big 12. I mean, West Virginia has a pipeline down to South Florida, but we've already proven that we can go head to head with Miami. I mean, we got Jacoby Spells, and really, it's not, it's not like everybody relies on that. And the Big 12 doesn't have the SEC factor in recruiting. So it would basically stay the same.
Is Waco a big TV market, like in terms of recruiting?
Surrounding areas, not Waco itself, but surrounding areas.
Is Waco close to Dallas? Is that near Dallas? Is Waco near Dallas?
It's a little. I think Waco is like south, a little southwest of Dallas Fort Worth.
Okay,
TCU's in Fort Worth.
That would help recruiting in, like, if Miami goes to the Big 12, let's say the ACC falls apart if this deal doesn't go through. I think Miami leaves. They follow Notre Dame to the Big 12, and we can still have, maybe, like you said, he would be okay with adding Virginia Tech as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would target, if I were so Notre Dame wouldn't be considered a real member, just independent programming through Big 12, right? So you don't have to count them to mess up the numbers. So I would add, or at least go after, Louisville, Pitt, Virginia Tech, and Miami. Those are the 4 I would go after.
So what the ACC becomes a what is it called? What is it called?
Group of 5.
A group of 5, basically.
Yeah.
Except for basketball.
Which,
Miami
ESPN's actually in a good spot when it comes to this. They can either, number one, renegotiate, try to attract Notre Dame. If that doesn't work, then just bring up all the best brands to the SEC, raise that value, and then who cares what happens to Boston College, Wake Forest, Georgia
Duke.
Tech. They're not making us money anyways. They're the low-hanging fruit, so let them fend for themselves. They can join the AAC. So that can they're not sweating the lower brands. They just want to make sure the bigger brands,
How do you consider Virginia?
That's why Miami. That's why not calling it Miami blows my mind. I would consider them a top-tier brand.
Yeah, no. How do you consider North Carolina? And I understand for basketball, but for football, they're not a bigger brand than Miami.
Yeah, it's close, but yeah, a little bit bigger. And that's just going by, it's going by the stats, going by people that identify. But yeah, apparently, more fans identify as North Carolina football fans than Miami, but the support is only there when they're good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but when is the last time North Carolina has ever been good in football? Explain that.
That's true, but the thing is, Mike Brown has given them a lot of hope right now. Right now, they're selling out Chapel Hill based on hope. This year, he's going to have to deliver a 10-win season to keep that hope, because his first year, he blew them away. They were not expecting to be as good as what they were. The year after, he did okay, and then last year, significant letdown year. So in order to keep hope selling out that stadium, he's going to have to produce at least a 9 or 10 win season this year.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Disney and ESPN are being petty with Miami just because Florida doesn't want us.
Yep.
Or the SEC doesn't want us because of recruiting and stuff like that. Texas has the same size at recruiting base as Miami, basically.
Yep.
And you're complaining that Miami's gonna take your recruiting base away when you have a bigger recruiting base in Texas.
Yeah. Well, that's the argument, is they have a bigger recruiting base, and the SEC teams can use the SEC factor to win those recruiting battles, and by adding Miami, that gets rid of that. But like you said, you can use the same argument for Texas. So they're really talking out of both sides of their mouth whenever they say that.
Yeah, it's like you're hypocritical, and you're being a baby just because you just say you don't want Miami because it's going to affect your wholesome image. just say that. You don't want Miami's brash attitude. You're gonna
hold on 1 second. I have somebody wanting to come in. I keep forgetting to repost the link. I should have pinned it, but I started live before that. So give me 1 second. You can keep talking if you want to. I'm just putting this in. Somebody asked if they can call in. We do it through StreamYard, so I'm going to put the link in the comments. You don't have to show your face like Tony. See how he turned off his camera? But that's how we're doing call-ins. It's basically the same thing. You're just using either your laptop or still your phone, however you want to do it. But go ahead, Tony. I'm going to put this in.
Okay. Yeah, no, like I'm saying, it's hypocrisy at the highest level. You're complaining that Miami's going to take your recruiting base, but you're bringing in Texas to take away your recruiting base in Texas. Make that make
exactly.
sense.
That's talking out of both sides of your mouth. I agree.
And like you said, the ACC, you know what it is? I said this. They don't want to affect their wholesome image to the wider public because Miami is that brash. They're like the redheaded stepchild. You don't want them. You want them in your conference, but you don't want the general public to know that you're in your conference. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like what's it called? Your reputation.
Yeah, no, but when Florida State gets good, they're gonna be as brash as Miami. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
Sense. So
football fan 28. Thank you for the $5 donation. He says, taking call-ins, yes, through StreamYard. I just posted the link in the comments. You might have to scroll up just a little bit to get to it, but I posted the link. Said I was the head rep for UCF/Disney partnership until 2017. Gladly can discuss it. Yes.
Thanks. I need someone who was part of that deal.
It's you don't have to show your face if you don't want to. You can take that off. But I'm gonna. Hey, Shooter's coming back on. Awesome. Welcome back, Shooter. We have a former rep of the UCF Disney partnership potentially joining the show.
Excellent. Kids are fine. I just heard some weird rumor about Notre Dame. Did you guys? I know we were talking about that earlier, but
dude, immediately. Hold on. Let me go back.
As soon as you jumped off, that popped off.
Yeah, Dennis Dodd from
yeah.
Hold on. UCF Bryce, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna add you. But hold on, let me read this to Shooter real quick. Yeah, Dennis, this is from Dennis Dodd, and CBS is reporting this. Notre Dame is targeting $75 million annual media rights payout in quest to remain independent. The Big 12 would be used to enhance contract with NBC. Most people thought it was the Big 10. Right now, it looks like the Big 12 is actually emerging as the conference that would be the enhancement programming. Before we jump to that, I want to talk to UCF Bryce about what he knows about the UCF/Disney partnership, which he was the head of until 2017. Welcome to Golden Blue Dude.
Wow.
Sorry, how are you doing today?
Pretty
How
good.
you doing?
Pretty good.
Sorry, I'm in the car going to pick up my son, actually. So I will try to keep this as basic and kind of clear as possible. So
Okay.
the University of Central Florida for a long time was a commuter school, always kind of had been. They partnered with Disney back in 2003, and Disney basically sent a lot of their contractors to help design the campus completely. So Disney basically built the entire campus of UCF from the central point. Anyone that knows the campus will know from the central point on, it's very looped, so everything's kind of together. So Disney first started off with that because it was a local school. The Disney program, the Disney College program, uses a lot of UCF kids. So they needed to increase the attendance at UCF because they wanted to increase the college program kids that were going and that were going to work at Disney World. So it was easy for them. Let's put money into UCF, work with UCF, build it bigger, and then we can use their students while they're in school, can then work for us in the program. We'll pay them, blah, blah, blah. But we'll introduce more talent to our pool by reaching out to UCF. So that's kind of how the partnership started back in 2002 or 2003. It's been quite some time.
It's crazy that you said that. It's crazy that you said that because in the video that I put out today about UCF, I didn't know what you just told me. I was guessing. And what I said in the video is, has Disney been helping UCF build their campus? Because that would make sense. Disney is trying to help UCF build up their brand because they're in Orlando. And eventually, maybe they were hoping that UCF would be up to standards to where they could be accepted into the SEC.
Well, from what I was told, because obviously I joined when I went to school there in 2008. That's when I started working on the marketing side of things, and Disney became somebody that I worked with periodically. And as time went on, I worked with them more, but I worked a lot with kind of everybody. I was part of the marketing team for the just university. And I don't think Disney ever saw UCF as a sports program, really, because they started out in Division 2 and worked their way up to like the WAC, and then I think in 2003 when they started in the
Going out a little bit, UCF Bryce.
Yeah, certain parts of Orlando have a horrible connection.
Yeah, it's not very hilly. It's just the Wi-Fi connection is just not
11.
very good.
Then Disney.
All right, you just got back in. We lost about 3 minutes of your conversation.
Oh, sorry about that. So basically, I was saying that Disney didn't see UCF as much of a program when it came to football. They were in the Conference USA. They were in all the lower tiers, so they didn't see much of them with that, to my knowledge. They're never going to tell you guys aren't a good program. We don't care. But as soon as they beat Baylor, I think it was 2011, it was very obvious that there was a flip that switched because.
Dang it. Lost them again. It sounded like it was about to be good, too, right there.
Any kind of sponsor with the baseball.
Hold on. Right when you got to the good part, you cut out. 2011 is where it cut out.
Let me see if I can fix it. All right. Is this a little bit better?
Yeah, it cut out right when you said 2011. Oh, man.
This is it.
I know it's going to – now we know it's going to be something good because it keeps cutting out. Dadgummit. Let me get to Hayden Maxwell real quick. Thank you for the $5 donation. Says, it's a Main Street media reporter. They are only saying that because the SEC and Big Ten won't let Notre Dame drink off their you-know-what. I mean, that also could be the case. Yeah, sorry, UCF Bryce. You cut off right at 2011.
I think I've got a better connection. I was trying to fix something. Hopefully it's better.
You sound better.
So essentially, they were getting nothing from. They didn't see anything from UCF. 2011 came, and suddenly they wanted to now partner with the football program, the baseball program, the soccer program, and the track and basketball. That was who they were starting to kind of branch out and work with. And then as more time went on, you were seeing that they were putting more money into it. And right now in the stadium for UCF, there's a huge Disney billboard. While you go to campus at UCF, you can buy Disney tickets for a dramatically lower price. There's a lot of partnerships with Disney and UCF now, and I mean a ton. Essentially, it's the joke of a lot of people that live in Florida, especially in the area, that it's essentially Disney U now because of how much Disney does with UCF. Yeah. They'll bring a lot of. They're all over the stadium. They're all over the basketball arena. They're all over the baseball field. They're everywhere now when it comes to sponsorship. Ever since 2011 when they beat Baylor. So
exactly.
It doesn't shock me in the slightest. I hadn't heard this rumor, but rumors are rumors, so I kind of stay away from them until they happen. I hadn't heard this. One of the things I did think, and I told a buddy of mine that said, I'm shocked that the UCF doesn't get more pull, especially because Disney runs everything when it comes to a lot of this college. That they would just
ESPN.
Yeah, now that they've got a hand more into UCF, that they would pull more strings, and it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. That's why when UCF went undefeated, Disney's the one that approached UCF and said, "Hey, have your national championship quote unquote parade at our park." UCF didn't approach Disney at all. There was no intention for any parade. They were just going to throw up their banner, kind of use it as promotion. Danny White wanted to use it as just a selling point, to one, to piss off some people, and two, to get their name out there because nobody knew who UCF really was. And Disney said to them, "Hey, you come here, we'll host a parade for you. You can go through Main Street and we'll have a whole thing." And UCF's not going to turn that down. It's free marketing. So they did, and essentially that's why when I saw your video today, and I've been watching you for a while, and I just happened to see that. I was like, I didn't even think about that, like actually be coming into fruition. But yeah, no, they work They work a lot with Disney now. It's a big partnership. Next time you watch a UCF, you'll obviously see them in the Big 12.
Yep.
You're going to see plenty of ads that are going to be with UCF students and Disney partnering. You're going to see plenty of billboards or signage if you ever come to a UCF game here in Orlando with Disney plastered all over the stadium. It's one of their biggest markets. So, yeah. I think
I heard the rumor last night. John Kurtz was talking about. I was like, even my first reaction, because I didn't make all the connections, I was like, this is nonsense. Why would they choose UCF over, a Baylor, a West Virginia, list goes on. And then I saw other channels talking about it. I was like, I'm going to look into this. And then I saw all the connections. I was like, holy crap. This actually does make a lot of sense when you look at who's pulling the strings.
And the amount of money, from what I've been told, obviously I can't see this back end stuff, but the amount of money that I've been told that they make off of tourists coming to football games in Orlando is quite a lot, because a lot of families will come for like a weekend or whatever. And having the SEC, where now you've got a centralized, that the South essentially centralized right there, it's nothing for the families to get up and come to Orlando for a game.
Well, think about this. Think about this. Earlier, I was describing my trip to Disney back in November, and I'm almost 40 years old, believe it or not, and I had never been to Disney. It's first time, and I didn't realize that Disney isn't just Disney. It's like actually 5 different parks, like Animal Kingdom, Universal.
Oh, it's its own
5 different
town.
parks. I wouldn't be surprised if UCF wasn't turned into a branch of a park of Disney, like literally named something.
I would say the only problem with that is it's about 40 minutes from Disney, so it's a bit of a stretch from them. They're over in UCF's over in Oviedo. Disney's in their own city called Lake Buena Vista that they literally had built for them, and it's their own city. They've got their own electrical, they've got their own new name, they've got their own everything. So
Reedy Creek Development District.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. So I could see more of a partnership with UCF. I don't know about them becoming an extra branch of them just because of the distance. They're not really that close. They're the closest university, no doubt. Right. And a lot of kids go there, and a lot of families. But I could easily see them saying, hey, let's work with a conference that's going to have fans easily come to this location, and we could sell it to them as well. Because nothing against
Florida State, Florida.
Yeah, nothing against like the Baylors, because I like Baylor, and nothing against like Oklahoma State. But how many Oklahoma State fans are really going to consistently travel to UCF to go to a game? You may get it every once in a while, but you're going to get a Florida Gator fan to go to UCF. It's nothing against them. It's an hour drive. Like, they're going to show up to the UCF games. So you can pitch them to stay a weekend, stay at Disney for a little bit. Whereas you're not going to
earlier that the capacity for the bounce house is around 40,000, but they have footers and things necessary to expand it to, I think they said 70,000.
It's 68,500.
How much?
68,500 is what they've built.
That's
what they put in the bill to expand to.
So do you see that happening anytime soon now that they're joining the Big 12 and possibly the SEC in the future?
The money is being allocated for it. They're trying to put more into other things right now, but they said they do want to ramp up some of the stadium. They've talked about wanting to get rid of, like, they've got a lot of bleacher seats there for like the students and stuff. And it's been talked about potentially getting rid of that. But the biggest selling point for UCF, if anyone in here doesn't know anything about UCF, look up a UCF bounce house video. The reason people like UCF is because, I hate to say, you get motion sickness when you're there sometimes because of how much that stadium really moves. Like, they built it to be it was literally called the trampoline for like 5 years.
That's why it's called the bounce house.
Yeah. ESPN has said before on like broadcast when they did the Cincinnati UCF game, they were talking about how much they disliked they kind of disliked it because the cameras couldn't get a shot of the field because the entire stadium was literally shaking. So they had to go to to floor level field view.
Yeah. And
it's like, we need to get a better view for the game.
Yeah.
So,
Bryson, I have a question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
How far is the Citrus Bowl from the campus? Like, let's say you guys had to let's say UCF had to shut down to rebuild the stadium and stuff like that. How far is the Citrus Bowl from the UCF campus?
With no traffic, about 28 minutes. Fun fact, UCF played in the Citrus Bowl their entire career until they built the stadium on campus. So
there it is.
That's where they played. They played at Citrus Bowl for about 22 years, and then they built the campus, and the first game was against Texas in 2007. So the Citrus Bowl isn't that big far. They've done it. Obviously, you want it on campus. They've got the ability to build it over the summer if they need to. That's not a big deal. Like right now, they're putting in a lazy river. I'm not going to say anything on that. They're putting in a lazy river for like the athletes that they want to like chill and relax during games after games and stuff. But
hey, it helps with recruiting. All those amenities.
Exactly. So it's going to be interesting. I didn't think of the Disney route, but I think you're 1,000,000% on the money here because Disney runs UCF essentially now. And that's what – go to Disney Springs. You'll see UCF gear everywhere. You never used to see that. And, yeah. But I'm about to –
That was a shot in the dark whenever I made that video, but it made sense to me.
Yeah, I got to get off for now. Definitely keep listening, but I got to pick up the sun. But, yeah, if you guys ever have any questions, I'll be in your chat more, like even on regular videos. I can definitely help out if you've ever got questions like this. It's not – I can easily help.
Awesome. All right. I'm sure we'll be talking about UCF for a while now.
Have a good day, boss.
All right, you too. Thank you. Man, I mean, I made a video about it, and I was, trying. It was basically me connecting dots. It made sense to me, and then he comes on and basically says, that's exactly what's been happening. So they have a backup stadium for whenever they do want to expand. I will say that if they want to get to the SEC, they will have to expand to that 68,500 for sure. There's no way that they're going to let UCF in with a 40,000 seat stadium. That's just not going to happen. But the footers, everything needed to expand is there. They can move to the Citrus Bowl, play
and
there.
Don't forget.
The Citrus Bowl capacity would be enough to get in sooner rather than later. If they need to play there until that's done to get to the SEC, they can do that.
No, and the crazy thing about that, also the Citrus Bowl, doesn't Florida and Georgia play there every year, like their
Jacksonville.
Game?
Jacksonville.
No,
they play in Jacksonville for their neutral site rivalry.
Okay. Well, for you explain these stupid neutral site games, please. Why not play against each other at home? That makes no sense to me. That's the stupidest rule ever.
Well, I agree with that, and I've made a video on this. Actually, that's an SEC thing. They do a lot of neutral site rivalry games, and it's to protect their stronger brands because if they go on the road, they're more likely to get upset. So you have, and now they've started Texas A&M in Arkansas. Now they do a neutral site game in Arlington, Texas, but. Yeah. There's a bunch of neutral site, and even if it's not an SEC, rarely do you see an SEC team go on the road out of conference to play a Power 5 opponent. Credit to Alabama, they're going to Texas this year, but it's few and far between that you'll see that. I mean, you'll see a ton of neutral site games.
That pisses
last
me
year,
off.
Georgia had Clemson in Charlotte. This year, Georgia's going to have Oregon in Atlanta. And that's basically going to be a home game for Georgia anyways.
That pisses me off that there's favoritism. Like you're catering to a conference because you're catering to a conference because they're afraid to lose at home or on the road or on the only rivalry or the only game I've ever seen at home or away is Auburn versus Alabama. They either play at Auburn or they play at Alabama. So,
well,
that's the only
look at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt gets crapped on. Vanderbilt has 6 true road trips this year, 6. So Vanderbilt is perfectly content just collecting a paycheck. They're fine.
Yeah, Bama's had a pretty bad history of playing in Georgia, Atlanta, or in Arlington, but they've never wanted to play at somebody else's field. So this one game against UT is definitely a departure for them for the past 15 years.
Yeah.
They.
So if Baylor plays, Baylor played Oklahoma away, how far is it for you to drive to? How long would it take you to get to Norman, Shooter?
Norman, Oklahoma. I think it's about 8 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, something like that. I can't remember. I drive a little lead foot, so but that's from Waco. I don't live in Waco. So for me, it takes 3 hours just to get to Waco, and then it'd be another 8 hours beyond that.
Oh,
yeah. It's
so where all have you been in the Big 12 as far as road games?
I mean, well, back when I was at Baylor, it was A&M and UT and Tech, and TCU was not part of the conference. But I went to the Kansas game. I went to K-State. I never made it to Iowa State.
How about Stillwater?
Yeah, I went to Stillwater. And let me think. Went to Missouri and went one time to Colorado. That was a hell of a drive.
Wow.
Never went to Nebraska because why would you go to Nebraska just to wipe out? I mean, just get blown away back in those days.
Big Red Machine.
Yeah. Back in those days.
Have you ever driven all the way to West Virginia?
Well, West Virginia wasn't in the conference when I was there.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I never made it out that way. And I wanted to go to Iowa State because that was one of our games we would win back then before Matt Campbell.
Right.
But
that's a good point. People don't realize just how bad Iowa State was before Matt Campbell. They were horrendous.
Yeah. It was a different world. And Mizzou was competitive. Not so much now. Nebraska was dominant, not so much now. Colorado was a hell of a good team, not so much now. So,
was that with Whittingham?
Whittingham?
I think I forgot something in the link. My bad. Hold on.
Didn't Kyle Whitting wasn't
Utah
back when Colorado was in the Big 12? Wasn't Whittingham their coach? Kyle Whittingham? Or am I thinking of someone else?
I can't remember, to be honest with you. I don't remember the coach.
It was probably Neuheisel.
Rick Neuheisel.
Yeah.
They were just good. That's all I remember. It was.
Was that like early 90s or mid 90s?
I was there in the mid 90s. The Big 12 started, I think, in 96, if I remember right.
Okay, I got you. And, I forgot about it. It's not that old.
Yeah, but boy, it was a hell of a program back then. I mean, it was top of the world in the 90s. With Nebraska, Oklahoma, UT back then was good. Colorado, like I say, they were good. So it was a hell of a program.
So wait, the Big 12, like, did the Big 12 start up as soon as the Southwestern Conference imploded?
Yeah, the Big 12 was created, and the Southwest Conference folded as a result. You took the 4 best programs out of the Southwest Conference and created the Big 12 as a merger with the Big 8. And so the Southwest Conference just dissolved immediately.
Yep.
And everybody went their own way after that.
Yeah, and that was a pretty good conference too, the Southwest Conference, if people can remember that. It was because whenever Nebraska was in their Big Red Machine status type of deal, were they in the Southwest for a little period of time?
No, Nebraska was Big 8.
Big 8.
Way back in the day, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Matter of fact, it was Oklahoma A&M at the time. They were part of the Southwest Conference, but now you're talking like the 1940s, I think.
Gotcha.
A little before my time.
Hey, Tony, I'm going to rotate you out and bring in Slim Shady Canes. You can stay in the back, and I can bring you on if you want to rotate back in.
Yeah, sure. I'm willing to stay in the background.
Okay, cool. All right.
Georgia actually travels to Norman in 2023.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Uncle Lou was actually talking about that. That was scheduled before y'all knew that.
Yeah, it was before realignment.
Georgia's so that'll turn into a conference game. Yeah.
There's been talks of Georgia canceling that game now, which would
wouldn't surprise. Well, they're going to have to play Oklahoma anyway. So
yeah.
Hey, Slim Shady Canes, what was your reaction on hearing that there's possible talks with UCF? I think that's straight disrespect to Miami. I think Miami needs to be considered to the SEC.
Well, I mean, I came into it. I didn't come into it at the very beginning. I came into it once y'all started talking about, the whole Disney being involved. Right. And that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because they're already talking about leaving the state because their whole independent special district is being taken away from them. They're losing that next year. That's a done deal.
How would they leave the state?
I said they're threatening to. I didn't say they were actually going to do it.
Gotcha.
They're Disney and Ron DeSantis are in a pissing match with each other.
I gotcha.
Yeah, but
Um,
Disney's invested billions of dollars in that real estate. I don't think they can walk away from the whole state of Florida.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
as of January next year, the state of Florida takes control of that territory.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, trying to rebuild what they've done in Orlando and some other place would be actually probably trillions of dollars.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah.
What about the Ruiz brothers planning to build that stadium in Tropical Park? I think that would add a crap ton of value to Miami. Do you think that would help move the needle for the SEC?
I'm not going to give you the answer you want because I'm one of those people. I'm fine and dandy playing at Hard Rock. I don't care because I've been to games at
Well,
the
I'm talking
Orange
about
Bowl.
for like getting to the SEC.
I don't think Miami's going to the SEC. I think there's a whole lot of speculation going on, and I think there's a whole lot of nothing to it. There's absolutely the SEC commissioner has said absolutely zero about expanding past 16. I don't believe they're going to.
Well, he has talked about it, but the teams that were mentioned were the four that I've been talking about. There was one time where he said he actually preferred, I think it was Miami over Virginia, but they talked about Virginia because of having a rivalry for North Carolina whenever they came in. Now, when it happens, I don't know. How serious are they about it? I don't know. But, I mean, there is talk of them expanding, and it's heading in that direction of the Big Ten and the SEC splitting off and creating their own thing. But, things can happen between now and then, and their plans might get busted up. Like what I saw from, what was his name? Hold on. It was from Dennis Dodd from CBS, where Notre Dame wants $70 million to remain independent, and it's the Big 12 that's the leading candidate to enhance programming. Where did that come from? The Big 12? I thought it was between the Big 10 and the ACC. Now it's like they even skipped a step. You know what I mean? I thought it was between the Big 10 and the ACC, right? The next step is, well, now the Big 12 is part of the discussion. No, they skipped that step. They went from it's between the Big 10 and the ACC to all of a sudden the Big 12 is the leading candidate. What did I miss in between? We skipped steps. Like, that's not.
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. Now I did see the other day. I think it was ESPN wrote the article. They are renegotiating TV contract with the ACC.
Yep.
Which says to me, more than likely, they've already got something set as far as teams to bring in.
Yeah, and Notre Dame would have to be involved in that. Let me get to these super chats real quick. David Z, thank you for the $2 super chat. He said, good rumor news for the Big 12, Iowa State Cyclones. Well, we can confirm that the Iowa State Cyclones are the Big 12. That is no longer a rumor. They are a member. Hayden Maxwell, thank you for the $5 donation. The reason UF doesn't want UM or UCF is because of the cute ugly factor. Gainesville, except for UF campus, is a dump compared to both of the others. So some shade throwing on to Florida Gators. I've never been to Gainesville. I've been to Orlando last November, and I've been to Miami. It's been a while. Miami was okay, but I've never been to Gainesville. Have you?
You're not missing much.
Is it a dump like Hayden Maxwell is claiming?
It's the University of Florida and a bunch of meth labs.
Oh, hit him where it hurts. I hear you. Hey, and I'm okay with that because where I'm from, West Virginia, I get the meth description all the time. So
that's
somebody else calling somebody else meth capital or meth labs, go for it.
Yeah, that is one thing that people mentioned about the expansion that the Big 12 did last year is they looked at not just, good programs and all that, but also destination places for people who want to go on road trips and road games.
Right.
And so, UCF fit it perfect. Cincinnati, well, okay. But BYU is kind of an interesting one with Salt Lake City kind of being an outside deal. But you were mentioning Disney, and I was thinking about that, and that makes a lot of sense because if they wanted to really go all in on UCF, then they would probably want to have everybody booking in their hotels and get a real nice shuttle bus system every weekend So
or make a trip out of it. Hey, Disney's right down the road.
Right. I mean, it's basically, hey, come stay at Disney for 4 or 5 days and go see the game, and we'll bus you there for free.
That
So
would be smart. That would be smart.
It'd be a nice package. I mean, I'd probably do it.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure Slim Shady Canes doesn't like us talking about the benefits of the SEC picking up UCF, but it is what it is.
It doesn't really hurt my feelings because, number one, I don't think it's going to happen because they've already signed with the Big 12. I mean, that contract, the ink's dry on that contract. So, and I mean, here's the thing. Unless something miraculous happens, UCF isn't in the same stratosphere as the University of Miami. They're just not. I
agree with that. That's whenever I first heard it last night through John Kurtz, and then I heard it from everybody else, and then I did my own digging. At first, when I first did it, you can even ask Joey, we had conversations, and we were talking about back and forth. I was like, this just sounds straight up stupid. Like, it makes no sense. Miami, clearly a better brand than UCF, in my opinion. And then I rattled off a bunch of others that were ahead. But I guess it's the Disney factor. I don't know. I don't agree with it. I don't want it to happen unless it means Miami comes to the Big 12. Then I would be okay with it. But I don't know.
Like I said, I'm not convinced that the ACC is going anywhere because because here's the thing. The SEC commissioner, Big Ten commissioner, they could very well just put things out just to gauge people's reactions. Right. And there's a lot of people that are not happy with a lot of the things that are already done with changes in college football. So that's another reason it makes me think that a lot of this probably just isn't going to happen.
Well, there is a difference between the headline saying ESPN and the ACC are talking about renegotiating their TV deal and them actually doing it. Yeah. Until that actually gets renegotiated, you're exactly right. As the contract reads right now at this moment in time, nobody's going anywhere. The grant of rights has everybody locked in till 2036. The only point that I would say, and I mentioned it earlier, is Notre Dame is not a member with football, so they are not locked in with the grant of rights. So that's where my eyebrow raises a little bit. Maybe the Big 12 thing might have some teeth to it. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I mean, CBS just reported it, so there's something behind it.
Well, me personally, I don't think Notre Dame's going to do anything until they're forced to do something. Until the playoff committee comes out and says you will get left out of the playoffs at 12-0 if you don't have a conference championship, I don't think Notre Dame's going to join any conference.
I brought on Ryan McCulloch. I don't know, buddy, if you know, you're muted and I can't unmute you, and I haven't really heard you talk a little bit. I don't know if there's something going on in the back. There you go.
Oh yeah.
What about you? I know Oklahoma's going to the SEC, and there's been rumors of the SEC expanding, and then the first 4 teams came out after Oklahoma and Texas. Is that a little irritating that it's kind of taking the shine off of the big pickup, Oklahoma and Texas, to the SEC to begin with?
I don't think
it would irritate me. I'll be honest. It would irritate me.
I don't think it's actually going to happen, but we're going with Texas, so they're already stealing most of the shine. I'm okay with it because they're getting all the hate from it.
Yeah, they only steal the shine because it's the wrong shine. They're stealing all the hate. You guys are getting all the love. Everybody's saying Texas.
Yeah, I know they're getting all the hate, and we're just kind of staying under the radar while they all get bashed on.
Well, Texas is going to have to learn the hard way that they don't care about your feelings in the SEC. So you're going to see a whole lot of horns down at a lot of games.
Absolutely, they think the merchandise is bad now with the horns down. It's going to be way worse. Let me get to this super chat real quick, guys. Hayden Maxwell, appreciate your $5 donation. Says that's a huge factor in getting recruits. Plus, on top of that, when it comes to NIL, the bigger city markets would practically take away all of UFs. As far as not bringing in Miami, that's I mean, it makes sense. So basically, this is a fear factor type of thing as far as
You know,
But then the counter argument was what Tony said earlier. Texas does the same thing. So any argument that you can give for Miami, you could also give for Texas. So that's the SEC talking out of both sides of the mouth. I don't know.
Texas is a bigger brand than Miami is.
Well, yeah. So it might actually be worse. I don't know.
well, you got to
Well,
take. I mean, they're the biggest brand in college football. You can't pass that up. But hey, Slim, I got a question for you though. All these
Yes,
years, Florida has not wanted Florida State or anybody else from the state of Florida. You think they're going to be kosher, or the SEC is even going to consider the idea of 3 schools from one state, taking UCF and Florida State, and then already having Florida?
I think they would probably pick up, if it came down to it, I think they would probably pick up Florida State and Miami. And I think that they would probably tell Florida to suck it up, much like they told Texas A&M to suck it up. Because everybody knows Texas A&M didn't want Texas in there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they waited until the last second to tell them. I mean, they waited till like 2 weeks before to even tell Texas A&M because they just didn't want to hear Texas A&M whine about it. But they're like, you're just gonna have to get over it. It's happening. What are you gonna do? Leave?
They
No.
tried to do state legislation because they were so mad.
Well,
Okay.
speaking of state legislation, the state of California is trying to pass legislation to keep USC and UCLA in the Pac-12.
I don't think it'll go through, and I think it's shown. I think politics needs to stay out of college football, or it's going to get ruined real fast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The only exception I will make, I completely agree with you. The only exception I will make is I think it's okay, like what South Carolina did, where Clemson and South Carolina have to play each other every year.
Yes.
I wish they would do that for Florida, Florida State, and Miami.
And that's the reason why West Virginia and Marshall played as long as they did. Governor Joe Manchin signed legislation to keep it going. He moved on to Senate, so that kind of died. But Marshall fans complain, well, without Joe Manchin, we couldn't keep playing. Well, then you didn't have to keep losing us. Marshall has never, ever beaten West Virginia, so I don't know why they want to keep playing us. I guess they just want another shot.
That's the thing with
that was a
Bedlam.
lose-lose for West Virginia. You beat Marshall, you're supposed to. You lose to Marshall, and that's probably the worst day in the history of a West Virginia fan's life.
Bedlam's going to die when we go to the SEC, most likely, unless Oklahoma State comes. But, I mean, if you ask OU fans, who would you rather play, Oklahoma State or Texas? We're picking Texas every day of the week. Whereas if you ask Oklahoma State, who's your marquee game, they point at Oklahoma.
I've heard that there's legislation that keeps that game tied together for another decade. Not that Oklahoma State has to go wherever Oklahoma goes, but they have to keep playing each other no matter where Oklahoma is.
I'd be okay with it. We lead the series 90-19. So
That's not a rivalry.
they win one every 6 years to keep it going.
Good gosh, that's not a rival. That's
Gundy's beat Oklahoma was like 3 times.
yeah. He's had probably the most success out of any Oklahoma State coach too.
Wow.
I mean,
And
you
only
could go
beaten them
back.
3
Even Jimmy
he's been there
Johnson
like
had
20
trouble.
years. Yeah, it's
I mean,
crazy.
that's always been that way, though. I mean, Jimmy Johnson used to get his brains beat in by Oklahoma, and a lot of people attribute that to him having that chip on his shoulder he did as a head coach.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's the same thing with South Carolina Clemson. South Carolina had that stretch where they beat them 5 years in a row, and they did the 5, and Clemson fans, that's disrespect block. And now Clemson's won 6 straight, and so they added the thumb. It was called the 5 and then the thumb for 6, or maybe it was the thumb for the – I don't know. It was a ridiculous thing. But South Carolina has gotten beaten by Clemson so much that I'm like, is this
Until
really a
this
rivalry?
year. This is the year.
Well, I would say this is the year, except it's in Clemson. And
Rally's going to go crazy.
I don't know.
No.
Not sure about that one. Although I have South Carolina having a decent year, but one of their losses is on the road to Clemson. So I don't know.
Well, you
We'll
also
see.
had South Carolina beating Georgia, which I thought was.
I do have South Carolina beating Georgia. Yes, I do.
You what?
I have South Carolina losing to Arkansas, but then beating Georgia.
I do. And the last time that I picked South Carolina to beat Georgia was in 2019.
Okay, sun shines on a Rabbit Dog's ass every once in a while.
Well, I see things too. I was the same guy that predicted, I think it was 2020, Oregon State to upset Oregon as I think it was like a 3-touchdown underdog. And the reason, there was an actual reason why I predicted that. Oregon State's run defense was top 10 in the nation. No. Oregon State had a top 10 running game, but a terrible passing game. That's why they had a losing record. But Oregon's defense was like bottom of the barrel against the run defense. I look at matchups and who it
Yes,
favors.
but in a rivalry like that, and I'll use Miami and Florida State as an example. I've seen terrible Miami teams take national title contender Florida State teams down to the wire.
That's like OU Texas.
yeah.
The records go out the
So,
window
I
when
mean,
OU and Texas hit the field.
That's why
they
I didn't-
really
I didn't
do
see
in
Pitt
rivalry
beating
games.
Clemson in 2017, 2018. I did not see Pitt going on the road and beating Clemson because they put a little twerk in their offense with the shovel pass, and they added one extra disguise on their defense where their linebackers shifted at the last second, and Clemson's offense didn't know what zone they were covering. Yeah,
Well, see,
did not see
me
that coming.
personally, if I'm picking a schedule, I don't pick anybody to go undefeated because it's very hard to do.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Nick Saban's run is one of the more unprecedented. I think second only to Tom Osborne at Nebraska. But I mean, he's only managed to go undefeated twice.
Yeah.
Let me get to this super chat. Hayden Maxwell supporting the show like crazy today. Appreciate your $5 donation, buddy. Says advantages with their SEC school recruiting advantage because those markets allow for so much. Those markets allow for so much more variety for players to get better. Add contracts. We're talking about why the SEC won't add Miami because the SEC schools want to keep their SEC recruiting advantage. Hey, you come play here. Yes, you can stay at Miami and play in Miami, but you'll be playing the ACC. You come here to Alabama or Georgia or Florida or whatever, you get to play in the SEC. Let me just give y'all a quick rundown as to why. There is an actual why I'm predicting South Carolina to beat Georgia, okay? So the first thing is right out of the gates, Georgia loses 3/4 of that historic defense, okay? They're still going to have a top 20 defense, but they're not going to be historic. Last year was a once-in-a-generation defense. Listen, you take out that loss to Alabama, and Georgia allowed between 6 and 7 points per game. That one game bumped that average up to 10 points per game. You take that out, historic defense. Nobody would probably ever touch that number, okay? So that's factor number one. Factor number two, South Carolina is going to be better than what they were last year, okay? Last year, South Carolina didn't have any quarterback. Not just a bad quarterback, none. You know what they did? They took a grad assistant who was holding a clipboard and threw him on the field and started him. He got injured. Next man, he got injured. They played Doty for a while. South Carolina got to a bowl without a quarterback. I don't know
with
how.
a wide receiver at quarterback.
Yeah, they played a wide receiver at quarterback as well. Yes. So the quarterback situation is in much better shape with Spencer Rattler. But on top of that, South Carolina has a top 10 transfer portal class. I think they're like number 6 or number 7. So it's not just Spencer Rattler. They added a bunch of talent from the offseason. All right. So Georgia lost 3/4 of that defense. It's not going to be historic. Top 20, yes. Pretty good,
I
yeah.
think it's going to be a top 10 defense.
Possibly. That's possible. But definitely top 20, but not historic, not unbeatable. South Carolina going to have a quarterback.
I don't know.
Even if Spencer Rattler's average, even if he's average, it's still better than what they had last year. Last year, they basically didn't have a quarterback, all right?
I get where you're coming from.
There's two more things. Hold on.
All right.
Home game for South Carolina. It's early in the year.
You know, I think we make a good argument of why South Carolina is going to be better. but I don't know if they're going to be that good. I mean, look, Spencer Rattler he's a talented guy, but he's got his own problems. And I think a lot of this really comes down to coaching. You talk about the transfer portal reload, and that's a big deal. But there's not a lot of coaches that can take that many guys in the transfer portal and get year one productivity out of them. So this will be a real good test of what kind of coach is Spurrier. Is he really that good? And maybe he is. And then this will be the tell.
Shane Beamer.
And even with
Beamer.
even with all the transfers he brought in, yes, South Carolina is more talented, and Spencer Rattler is definitely better than any quarterback they had. But does that mean that they're going to be able to line up and go head-to-head with a top 3 roster in the nation?
I think South Carolina will be better. I agree. I'm not positive about them beating Georgia, but they'll probably be a good contender in the East. I mean,
See, I think the thing with Georgia is last year, whoever their quarterback was, whether it was Jaden Daniels in the beginning or Spencer Rattler at the end, their quarterback was only put in a position of stress one game, and that was Alabama. And what happened to Stetson Bennett? He couldn't handle it. The rest of the games, their quarterbacks didn't have to score more than 20 points. The highest anybody scored against Georgia last year was Tennessee, who scored 17. That was the most. Besides that 41-point jaloping by Alabama. So the quarterback was not under any type of stress to win a game. Hey, you scored 3 touchdowns, you win. This year, Georgia's going to be in many, many, many more 50-50 football games. Now, that's not me saying that Georgia's going to, dive off a cliff or anything like that. I still think Georgia's going to probably, more than likely, win the SEC East. They'll either be 10-2 or 11-1. They'll get to the SEC championship, have a shot to get to the playoffs, but they're not going to be the Georgia from last year. They will be in 50-50 football games, so they will have an actual chance of losing.
Well, I don't think anybody thinks that their defense is going to be as good as it was last year. I mean, there's one defense this century that was better than them, and that was Miami's 0-1 team. But that being said, look at what they did to everybody last year, and the only real danger they were put in is against Florida. So if you're going to pick anybody to upset them, it would have to be Florida, and they've got a much more talented roster than South Carolina does.
I don't know.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, and that's a neutral site game too, so that's you're going to have a split crowd.
Hold
on, let me get to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I need to drop the link again. Maxwell, thank you for the $5 donation. He says, I want to come on and talk and not pay to explain this. Fair enough. Plus, I'm a horned frog and follow all their athletic department meetings, going solo, LOL. Y'all go ahead and have your conversation. I'm going to put the link in the comments.
All right. So, did you guys just see Lane Kiffin just took a big jab at the Big Ten?
What?
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
He says they were asking him about the teams, expanding, going to different conferences, especially USC, UCLA. He said, I don't know that there's that huge of a jump going to the Big Ten from the Pac-12.
Oh.
The SEC, on the other hand, is a whole different animal when it comes to that.
Wow.
I mean, he's half right because the Big Ten, the Big Ten East? I mean, it has an argument for being the most loaded division in college football.
3 teams, yes.
But, yeah. I mean, the Big Ten West, you've got what? You've got Wisconsin, and that's it.
Well, honestly, you got Rutgers and Maryland in the East, so it's really
Illinois. They're not going to compete for anything.
Yeah, Indiana. I mean,
Northwestern was making the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, the Big Ten has a lot more dead weight than the SEC. I'll grant you that, but then they also have a pretty dang competitive top end.
They are really top heavy in the Big Ten. Their bottom is very low.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't think there's a huge gap between. I can see both sides of this. I can see both sides. I would agree in the fact that I think there's more depth to the SEC, but I also think that the Big Ten is bridged the gap
somewhat last year. I mean, Purdue came out of nowhere. Michigan State came out of nowhere. Wisconsin was pretty good. Iowa was pretty good. So I do think that the SEC still had more good teams, but the Big Ten threw in a couple more. So it shrunk a little bit.
I don't know if Michigan
here,
State would have done well in the SEC. Only
now here, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying like Michigan State. I don't know how well they would have done the SEC because they couldn't really throw the ball that well. They had to run it. SEC defenses, or
Yep.
the SEC has offense and defense in the conference, where Big Ten's more defensive oriented. And Michigan State, one of the worst secondaries I've seen. And I'm an Oklahoma fan, so that says a lot.
Well, Michigan State should have lost to Michigan. Michigan got that touchdown taken off the board. And you know what? Everybody plays under the same rules. You have to respond and recover from that. But if that touchdown doesn't get taken off the board, I am convinced Michigan beats them. So I think them beating Michigan, kind of gave them a level of confidence. And I know they lost to Purdue on the road after that. But if you look at their schedule last year, it wasn't all that bad. And yes, Purdue was better, but if you beat Michigan, like for real, like legitimately, then you should have been able to go on the road and handle Purdue.
Now I know
That's just my
everybody
opinion.
runs with this narrative that the SEC is the most loaded conference, but how many of and it's mainly got to do with the fact of how many teams they end up with or start with ranked. But how many of those teams start their season ranked? And then, I mean, I've literally seen Florida start top 10 and finish the season completely unranked. So
Yes.
how many of them are getting ranked when they really just shouldn't be?
100% agree with that. Last year I saw, who was it? Mississippi State beat somebody and they ranked them just because they beat them. And they were like 4-2. Like they went from non-ranked at 3-2 to ranked at 4-2 just because they beat, I think it was Texas A&M. I think. I'm not sure. And I'm like, well, they're just going to get beat next week and get them unranked. And then it's going to look like a good win for whoever beats them. 100% agree with you, Slim. They do rank teams whenever they're not supposed to. And then the next team beats that team. Oh, they just beat a ranked team. That counts as a good win. Yeah.
Well, perfect example. And you heard it out of a lot of Georgia fans. Oh, we beat a top 10 ranked Arkansas. Where'd they finish?
Yeah. He finished 8-4, by the way.
Well, Arkansas got the UT, overrated.
Well, look at Arkansas' schedule, though. They had one of the hardest schedules in the country. Now, losing to Auburn wasn't very good, but, losing to Ole Miss, Alabama, and Georgia are 3 decent losses. And they lost to Ole Miss by 1 point.
I mean, say what you want. Ole Miss literally just had its second 10-win season ever in school history.
Yeah.
And
am I supposed to be afraid of Ole Miss?
Video yesterday because people are talking about, how great Ole Miss is. I'm like, or how good of a brand they are. I'm like, you guys need to look at before Lane Kiffin. They were horrible before Lane Kiffin.
Well, they beat Alabama that one time.
Well, before Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze.
No,
they beat Alabama twice with Hugh Freeze. Great.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun with them in the Sugar Bowl. That was a hell of a fun game.
That surprised me. I'm going to be honest with you. That surprised me. Not that y'all beat them, but y'all handled them pretty well.
Well, what's funny? You go back and watch that game, and you talk about hype and overrated. They had 1,000 things to talk about with Ole Miss and nothing to talk about with Baylor.
I noticed that.
And it was, we joke about it at my house. We call it powder blue Jesus because you would have thought Matt Corral was the second coming of Jesus in a powder blue uniform because that's all they talked about. Even after he was off the field and injured, they just kept talking about him. And, it was comical. But, yeah, I think they overrated Arkansas. I think they overrated Ole Miss. I think they overrated a lot of teams. Kentucky, my God, they talked about Kentucky like Kentucky was going to run the table and win the world.
Yeah, I did predict Kentucky before the start of the season. I predicted Kentucky to go from 5-6 to finish second in the SEC East, and Florida Gator fans ripped me up. What do you mean? Kentucky just went 5-6. We just had a 10-win season, I'm like, yeah, but you lost everybody. I mean, the team that you saw against Oklahoma, that's who you're going to be. No,
That
it's
was a
not.
fun
We were
game.
just playing a bunch of bench riders, blah, blah. I'm like, no, that's who your team's going to be. And then it came to pass that that's who their team was going to be. And Kentucky had a lot of experience coming back. Guys, we're going on 2 hours. I'm going to wrap this up. But before I do, I'm going to let everybody get their last word in. You can talk about Baylor, whoever your team is, college football, conference expansion, whatever. Shooter, you're up first. Last word, buddy.
Well, I called last year a 10-win season for Baylor. I'm calling it again, 10-win plus again. We returned the whole offensive line, the whole defensive line, so I think that's a big deal. I think Baylor will play in the championship against a team not named UT or OU. And honestly, I think West Virginia has a shot at it. I think Kansas State has a shot at it.
Yes,
So,
agree on both. And
yeah.
JT Daniels was just put on the quarterback watch list for the Big 12, by the way, today.
He should be.
So
But
there you go.
That's where I'm at.
All right, I appreciate you for joining the show. We'll go to Ryan McCulloch, buddy. Last word.
All right, last word. Oklahoma finishes with a top 20 defense this year, takes a huge step forward. And then we just hired Brent Venables, and then arguably top 2 defensive line coach in Todd Bates. They're going to take a huge step forward. So I'd argue top 20 defense. And then Kansas doesn't finish last in the Big 12.
I like that. In fact, I think it's going to be TCU that finishes last.
I would agree.
There you go. I agree. Appreciate it, buddy. And finally, our esteemed guest, the Slim Shady Canes. Last word, buddy.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, I'll wrap this up with a little bit of fairness. I don't necessarily think like what I said about SEC teams getting overranked. I think it's more of a brand thing more so than an
That's
SEC thing because
fair.
I've absolutely seen it happen with my own team as well. I
Yep.
called it all year in 2017 that Miami team was riding a turnover wave on a really good defense. I said they're a good half a team. They're nowhere near the number 2 team in the country, and they proved me right. So, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily a conference thing more so than it is a brand thing, and it happens to my team as well.
I agree with that, actually. Well said, sir. Appreciate you for coming on the show. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody that stopped by just to watch Golden Bluted. All my guests, I appreciate you guys coming on. Everybody that super chatted, thank you for supporting the show financially. Everybody that hit the like button, believe it or not, that helps the show a lot. If you're not a subscriber of Golden Bluted, 2 things. If you're not a college football fan, do not subscribe. Don't do it. Don't do it. You won't like this channel. But if you are a college football fan, please hit the subscribe button. That's all we do, and it's every day. I don't take a break. The only time I took a break was whenever I had a stomach bug, and I was going to do a video in the bed, but I couldn't do it. Even when I had COVID, I still did shows. I don't miss a day. This is my obsession. This is my life. So if you love college football, hit the subscribe button. You can always unsubscribe if you don't like it. Anyways, that's the show for today. I'll probably go live again tomorrow, but I don't know when. So hit the bell if you are a subscriber because I don't have a schedule. Life, I just fit it in wherever I can. So hit the subscribe and hit the bell, and that's when you'll know I go live. All right, that wraps it up. Golden Bluted is out, and I will see everybody tomorrow.